Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hope we're all good. How are we all? You can see me and hear me, yeah? Don't all shout at once. Good stuff. It's them slow fingers, folks, or the lag. So, thanks for joining me. 60 of you registered, 28 live, which is great at this time of day. So, a check-in for commitment. So I'm hoping that you engage with me through this training, put quite a lot of thought into how this stuff can be digested and actionable, right? Because that's really important. It's not useful otherwise. So be open-minded, but make sure you reflect, either take notes now or watch the replay and take some notes afterwards. And think about, after this call, what you can take from this to do something differently. Okay. Ultimately, the truth is, where we're at right now, whether if we like where we're at or if we don't like where we're at, it's a consequence of the decisions we've made to date. And either we're on an upward trajectory to where we want to go, or we're on a downward trajectory. One thing's for sure, too, is that life is an infinite game. Okay. So there's no end destination. No one's going to give us a gold medal at the end and say, happy fucking days, well done. So this journey of evolution, growth, development is a never-ending one. And the markets will always remain uncertain and volatile, and there'll be different curveballs at different times. I've got notes all around me, so bear with me. In terms of my, I don't want to miss anything, you see. Okay. So are we all good for engaging and sharing with me in the chat? Yeah? Just put a yes in there. Get them fingers working. Good. So first things first, my point with this whole decision-making thing is that it's the only quantifiable action. Yeah. Now the decision will come from a trigger, a thought, an emotion. And, you know, when we talk about trading is 90% psychology, obviously that's true. 90% mindset, 90% psychology. Well, what if I change that to go, it's actually 100% decisions? Think about that for a minute. You know, any cock up we've ever made has been a decision. Any win we've ever achieved was a decision. Now, some of those decisions are deliberate, right? They were contemplated. We were from a place of being rational. We gave it thought. We thought 3 or 4 steps ahead. Or maybe we didn't. Maybe it was totally irrational. We were emotional. Maybe that decision and that outcome was actually a good one, even though we weren't from a good place, because that's just pot luck and probability, right? So just think right now for me and pop it in the chat. Is there a decision that comes to mind from your trading scars, wounds, that you're haunted by or that you remember? You know, it might be a revenge trade that blew an account that you didn't want to blow, or, you know, what does that look like for you? Just be open. Everyone's in the same boat. Pop it in the chat. Then I'll tell you mine. Okay, going live too soon. So that was a decision driven by, let's look at the emotions of that, impatience, probably a bit of greed, but maybe a bit of fear. So greed can be disguised as fear, okay? Because ultimately there was maybe a fear of missing out and a fear of wanting to achieve certain stuff, a fear of not being able to live the life you wanted, a fear of being stuck in the job that you don't like, or whatever all that might be. But in order to analyze that, you have to come from a place of awareness first, okay? 25K in a week trading crypto. Yeah, absolutely. Probably a similar thing to the one above, and they're all going to be similar. Or maybe, right, this was an inability to gather the right evidence and assess a situation as well. 3K in, blew it in a day. Absolutely. Failing a challenge, straight away buying another before failing that. Absolutely. Good. Thanks for sharing. There's a load of you that haven't. Maybe you can't right now, but if you don't want to share, that's cool. But just really go there. So for me, I remember Euro NZD, and I was in some sell positions. It just kept going up and up and up. Can't keep going up. Well, can I tell you, it fucking can. And that was at a time where I was trading to try and clear some debts off, chasing the money, over leveraging, risking too much per trade, scaling into positions, waiting for that turning point that never came. So instead of trying to pay off debts and make money, I was actually creating more. Yeah, creating more pain. It gets to a point where that's not sustainable, right? You can't keep making the situation worse. So there's an awareness piece there. There's again, the same thing as probably the first one: fear, greed, impatience, not taking it seriously. You know, none of us could go out there. I couldn't go out there tomorrow and set up a business. I've used the example before, you know, an electrical company. I'm just going to kill myself, right? I'm going to get 240,000 volts through me. I'll probably blow places up. Can't do it. You have to go through a place of training. Trading's not, you know, you can just start it tomorrow. That's why the failure rate's so high. So, you know, you have to go through pain to come out the other end to a point too, because otherwise you've never experienced it. So you don't know where those areas of progress are. And I said this before as well the other day, that my probably biggest areas of growth, progression, new progress has usually come from a place of a setback first. Because if you think about it, progress can't be made unless there's a lesson somewhere, because otherwise everything's going to be certain and there'll be no improvement, right? So whenever there's been some pain or a loss or a cock up, you've got to be able to go there and go, okay, what did I miss here? What did I not know I didn't know? And, you know, one example of that might be someone who loses a funded account because they've not read the rules properly. Is that trader gonna not read the rules properly next time? Hopefully not. But remember, the definition of insanity is doing exactly the same thing every time and expecting a different result. There are people that do that, keep doing the same thing, and not getting anywhere. You know, in order to achieve what the 1% achieve, you've got to do what the 99% aren't willing to do. Think about that for a minute. If everyone's preaching the same ways of trading and the same ways of doing it, isn't that obvious that they're part of the 99% not winning? Yeah. So let me just read up some more of the chats. 12-week backtest, golden 1-week EP, couldn't recover in time. I hope I didn't miss too much. No, all good. So let's just look at that in terms of the trajectory. Let me share my screen. There we go, before I start drawing stuff. Share screen. And I've got it all set up beforehand. Hey, how cool is that? Now, I don't know how. No, that's not it. So the other day I did this and I was half and half on the screen, but I don't know how to do that on here. Evenly split scales. There we go. That's what I'm after. Okay, you can still see what I've got here, so that's fine. Okay. So let's say where you want to go is up here. Where you don't want to go is down here. So I guess you've got to quantify what does success up here look like, right? Might be consistent profits, sustainable success, prop trading capital, withdrawals, that whole shooting match, right? Let's say we're here right now. Every single decision we make can compound to get us to this point. Okay, it's like a domino effect. One thing can lead to another. And that's why chess is a good example, because chess, if you're a good chess player, you're thinking multiple moves ahead. You're preempting what you're going to do if, yeah? If I move this there, what might that person then do? How am I going to react to that? And you've almost got this total like spider of one decision might have 3 or 4 different options on the chessboard, right? And then there might be another 3 off that, or 4. And you're like, right, well, you're trying to cognitively, what this one decision might have these 3 outcomes, which might have these 9 outcomes. And it just flies off into so many different possible domino effects of that decision. Okay, trading is no different. The decision to do X, rushing in, yeah? The decision to rush into something that you're not ready for. You then fail. You then rush straight back in again. You then blow money than you can afford to lose. You're then chasing that loss. You then get a credit card and put X amount and buy more challenges, and you fucking fail then. Yeah? So basically what happens is this one little domino here trickled into that. Okay? And that's disaster. It could be disaster. However, if you're resilient, if you've got self-awareness, if you are a good thinker, you might be able to, yes, we all cock up at times, but you might be able to stop it here. Okay? And if you stop it here, you might be able to correct it back up here. Okay? Some people are done. Some people might be way down here and might never get there. There's the truth. So much pain, so many scars from the market, so much chasing to try and get back to where they want to get to. Okay? So the less you're flawed here, the easier it is to get back on track. Okay? And that's the ability to think ahead and to pull yourself back in line from where you want to be. Okay? So remember, it's not the 90% psychology. It is, but it's all decisions. Okay? That's all it is. And this is just cause and effect. Okay? Because ultimately, if we feel greed, if we feel fear, them in isolation mean absolutely nothing. They're just a word and a feeling. When that turns into an actual decision is when it goes to shit, right? So I want to try and make sure that you end this session with, there's going to be at least 3 visual models that hopefully create some structure around your decision making, that bring a sense of awareness around how you can make better ones, and almost like the ingredients that you need for that to happen. Yeah, because if you don't have perfect balance in all areas, you're still going to make shit decisions at times. Okay, and we will get things wrong, but it's our ability to cock up here, and instead of this drifting, you could start well, right? You could start well at POW, do all the videos, learn some shit, maybe have a bit of greed kick in, but you're on the journey actually. You know, let's say you're on this trajectory, you're on this line. Something happened, you don't handle a loss. For some reason you think you're invincible. Maybe a bit of complacency, overconfidence. And something happens that starts dropping you down. Okay? Now you can either choose and reflect and pull yourself back in track to keep you back on, or that then sends you down here. So it can work both ways too. Okay? Does that resonate with you so far? Let me know in the chat. Yes, no, anything that is resonating with you so far. Think about where you're at on that trajectory. And where you're at on that trajectory so far is a consequence of the thoughts, beliefs, triggers, behaviors, actions, and outcomes you've had so far. Okay. But the good news is you can control where you're at. If you don't want to be where you're at, you've made the first right decision in joining this training to be able to reflect upon that to get it right. Well, greed is wanting to make a buck, right? It's also driven by fear. It doesn't really matter which one, I guess it is. It's about managing the outcome of that. Okay, is this fear, greed? Well, it could be fear. It could be a bit of greed too. I don't want to miss out. Everyone's fucking smashing it. I don't want to miss on that opportunity. I feel like I'm being left behind here, or I want to quit that job, or I've got this to pay for. Whatever it is, what are the consequences of a possible decision that you might want to make? Okay, and how would you feel if that worked or it didn't? That's one of the killer questions here first as well within the training, is how would I feel if? I remember having a chat with Michael. I'm sure he won't mind me sharing because it's useful and relevant. On one of Michael's funded accounts. This is about your when you would hit your profit target, Michael. I think it was 205k. Okay to share. And I think you were thinking, right, I could push that a bit further because you'd set your first target and hit it. And I remember the chat because it was like, okay, but what if you then change your goal from cool, thanks, 200, you're at 205, you were happy with 205, that's where you wanted to be. Then it was like, well, what if I can get to 208, 209? I said, okay, well, that might work for you. But what if you don't? What if chasing the 205 to 208, 209, you hit a loss and you end up back to 195 or 200? How then are you going to feel? Really shit. You then, what's the next thing you're going to do? Going to try and get back to here, right? And then what might happen? Shit, I'm at 185, 190 because I've chased that, but I was there at the beginning. Okay, so how does your end of month next week look like if you just stop? I think it was a Friday, right? It was a Friday, I think, Michael. And it was like, what sort of a weekend are you going to have knowing that you've controlled this thinking process to an outcome whereby, do you know what, you set 205, funded account, got 5k coming, and just stop? Are you going to have a better weekend than if you continue to do something today, or, you know, and then this happens? This happens this afternoon or tomorrow, and you end up taking that loss and being back to where you don't want to be. How are you going to feel then? And it was just taking yourself away from, I guess, being blinded a little bit by some of those emotions to then coming back. It was a Friday, yeah, due a payout. Yeah, cool. There we go. I remember this stuff because it's so relevant. That's why daily targets don't work. I've said this before. Some people disagree. That's cool. We live in a world where an opinion's fucking fine. I'm talking from experience that as soon as you set a daily target and, you know, you get to it, if you're disciplined in that, great. But if you're behind and then you get close and then you're back again, you're chasing something. Just get what the market gives you. Okay. So let's look at a model. The first one of the models, if decision making is in the middle, is the sweet spot. I want to give you what I believe are the three ingredients that are going to make this decision making process better. Okay, so let's accept the fact that perfect decision making doesn't exist, but let's also accept the fact that we can improve the decisions we make by going through these models and this process of awareness around, again, the key ingredients that work. So the baseline for everything is self-awareness. Okay, what would we say the opposite of self-awareness is? Let me have some thoughts in the chat. What's the opposite of self-awareness? No right or wrong, just opinions. Anything? Headless, self-unawareness. And then it's what's the outcome of that? What's the result of that? Yeah. For me, it's repeated mistakes. If you're not aware, you're going to just keep doing the same thing, which is repeated mistakes. It's that definition of insanity, right? It's not my fault. Yeah, almost like a victim mentality too. Yeah, you're a passenger to what's going on. There's probably a good word. But the result is repeated mistakes that maybe you don't take ownership for. Okay. So the next one, I believe, is resilience. I've spoken about resilience loads. Resilience is your ability to actually problem solve, handle a setback, and still want to keep going. Yeah. What's the opposite of resilience, would you say? Don't just say unresilience. What emotions are at play if you're not resilient? Being a pussy. Cool. Giving up. Yeah. You're going to be more or less stressed if you're less resilient. You're going to be more stressed, right? You're not going to be able to see through anxiety. Yeah, great word. That falls into this part of it too. Okay. We're going to delve into these further in a minute. The third one is this critical thinking piece. Okay. Same thing. What's the opposite of critical thinking? The ability to not look at evidence properly, not have a growth mindset, logical reasoning. Short-sighted, yeah? Yeah, the word I've got is naivety. Someone who hasn't got or employing deep critical thinking is going to be naive. Yeah, making rash decisions without thinking of the consequences, or making a flawed decision because they're not actually able to look at it from a logical perspective. Yeah? Good. So this is like the magic triangle of the three key things. Now, you can't have resilience without self-awareness. You can't have critical thinking without self-awareness either. You're not going to get to that point because you're lacking the resilience. So they all work together. It can't be successful without all three ingredients. So if we look at the self-awareness, what are the things that you can do that are going to increase what I'm trying to get you to do on this video? In order to improve this in the middle, you need to increase these. Okay. And you can ponder to yourself right now, where are you at with your own levels of resilience, with your own self-awareness, with your own critical thinking? What's driving it? How can you check in, be present with it, and work with what I'm going to go through here with you? So, self-awareness. I'm going to give 3 different ideas under each section. So the first one is introspection. Nice long word for a Friday afternoon. That could be, journaling, being aware. A little bit of a daily reflection journal, evening or morning, and the ability to then ask yourself great questions. The decisions I made today, how did they go? If I was to have to repeat today, knowing how today ended up going and what the outcome of those were, would I handle tomorrow differently? The morning one might be, how do I want to show up today? What can I control within my decision-making triangle that are going to stop me from taking a reactive decision if something happened in the market? Yeah, if I took a loss today, how can I show up after that? And actually, if you visualize the best version of you to handle that, it's without a fucking shadow of a doubt, you're going to remember that self-conversation and show up better. I'm absolutely sure of it. Feedback is another. If you're in and around folks that can help keep you on track or provide you with some clarity or some awareness, that's cool too. And this whole just presence overall, which you said there, Mervyn, Yeah. This is very similar to that, but it might show up in different ways. This might be introspection. It might be a journaling process. The presence might bring you back to your breath. Yeah. There's something called box breathing. Some of you probably know about this already, but it's just the ability to quickly regulate your nervous system and bring you a sense of presence if you're feeling stressed, anxious, nervous, whatever. A lot of the times when we're sat down, we breathe from the chest and our shoulders, and instantly that tells our brain that we're in our sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight response. So our brain and our mind is already thinking, shit, something's going to happen in a minute. And it's probably not, just because you're breathing in a way that is telling your brain that it probably is. So you're triggering the wrong nervous system. In order to relax and find yourself a level of presence, you want to be breathing from the diaphragm and the tummy area. So box breathing is where you take breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. So if you picture a box, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4, and you repeat that process. And what that does is it kicks in your parasympathetic nervous system to calm you and bring you back to presence. You could do that for 2 or 3 minutes and you will feel very, very different instantly. So before you're maybe setting up, let's say you're about to do some testing or look at Portfolio Finder or set up some accounts or set up some set files. If you do that beforehand, you're actually going to be tapping into flow state more easily on demand too. You're going to remove some mental distraction and it's going to enable you to execute more effectively as well. So that's just something from a presence perspective. But if there's one thing that you take away from this to increase your self-awareness, the journaling, and that just being aware of actually that someone else doing well has triggered a bit of fear or a bit of greed in me. That might show up in a particular way. I need to be aware of that. A bill coming through the post that you weren't expecting. Your gas bill might come through and think, shit. That might, when COVID happened and people lost an income in their other gig, right? That could trigger you into thinking, shit, I need to make that money back and focus on this. Is that, well, how might that show up in your trading? Is this from a place of rational thinking and decision, or is this from a place of being emotional? And how's that going to show up? What if you make it fucking worse? What if that need to try and replace that income actually makes the problem worse? What else could you do? Yeah? What else could you do instead? Could you do something else with the business as opposed to the trading? And it's just that self-talk, okay? Resilience. Habits. There are things we do day to day that are either going to increase our resilience or decrease our resilience. What could things that you're doing already that are what are the things that are decreasing your resilience right now? Put some stuff in the chats for me. What are you choosing to do, or what could you be doing that's having a negative effect to this area here? It's going to have a negative effect to the decisions you make because of the habits that you're creating. Awesome. So training is helping you increase the resilience. Increasing risk is making you, okay. It's not such, think about the habits. Think about your daily routines. Overthinking is difficult to quantify, but it's probably a reaction to the habits. So that's a result of poor habits. Potentially. What else? There we go, not going to bed early enough. That is something, right, that is within your sphere of control that you can change and have an instant impact. Yeah? Staying up all night looking at the markets. Blue screen. Yeah? Evening routine, morning routine. Exercise, diet. Steps. Being active, controlling what you feed your mind. Get up early, go for a walk. Yeah, 10,000 plus steps a day. So when you focus on positive habits, it's going to show up in the decisions that you make, not just in trading, but in loads of different things. It's going to have a domino effect to you being a more healthier, improved self if you focus on them areas. Yeah. Likewise, negative effects are going to have the adverse effect too. So the next one is this whole problem solving situation. Let's say a setback happens. If you're low resilience, and that setback happens, you're probably going to be up here. You're going to give up. You're going to be stressed. A resilient individual, when something goes wrong, isn't playing the victim. They're going, hey, shit. Okay. You might have a, Joe Dispenza calls it the refractory period. So when something goes wrong, we all have a moment of, oh, shit, that's annoying. The difference is how long that refractory period lasts for somebody. A low resilient trader, that might show up for days, weeks. They might be grumpy. They might not be able to shake it off. It might affect their mood, their in loads of other ways. A high resilience trader, that's happened and they're like, that's annoying. 5 minutes later, they've moved on. They've either reviewed, was this a controllable thing? Was this something that I can learn from to make sure it doesn't happen again? If so, what is that? How do I make that happen? Or it might be, hey, do you know what? That's just probability, shit situation, and can't control it. Move on. Yeah. This could show up in many different ways in life. Yeah. Someone could crash into your car on the way to work, go up your back end and cause some damage. Everyone's okay. But a low resilient person, that's going to be the end of the world and probably the end of their day, their week. It's going to piss them off for ages, and that's going to show up in their energy and other things. Yeah. A resilient folk, someone's just bumped up the back. Oh, guess what? Someone just ran into me today. Oh, nightmare. Never mind, we're all okay. No one was hurt. I'll deal with the insurance. No problem. Yeah. The same event happened, how that person showed up, and the domino effect of those thoughts, thinkings, behaviors, actions are going to show up in a very different way. The resilient person who's just had a bump on the car is still going to navigate this and come up here. The other person, it's going to send them down there. Okay. Are you with me so far? Just put yes in the chat. Is this making sense? Michael's on. Cool. Thanks, everybody. So the third one is emotional regulation. It's similar to this one. In order to be aware, we've got to be aware. We've got to feel what we're feeling and think what we're thinking. And the emotional regulation around our resilience, as you know, follow me on Instagram, I love my cold. I sort of do. It's a love-hate relationship with getting in an ice bath. My self-care and my habits are increasing my ability to show up better and perform better. This is a peak performance game you're choosing to play. Trading and being in the 1% of traders that can actually make fucking money, that is peak performance. This is all peak performance. And once you master this in your trading, it will show up in other areas of your life too, in being a better version of yourself, in your other businesses, in other relationships, in your health, fitness, all of that. It's going to leak. It's going to show itself up. Emotional regulation, back to breath work, back to meditation, back to even just managing dopamine. Yeah, I'm guilty of this at times. Too much screen time here and there. Again, perfection doesn't exist, but how can I move the needle forward and manage that? Okay. Manage a day or a few hours where you're not on the screen too. Good. So we can choose to be more resilient or less resilient due to the daily habits that you choose to fill your day with. That's the main one there for me, because that is then going to have an impact here. Okay. So critical thinking, what the fuck is that? Now, our minds are quite complex things, right? The Chimp Paradox is a great book. I think that's Dr. Stephen Peters. I think Kieran's got a training on that soon. But we have our logical brain, we have our chimp brain, and they both might fall out from time to time. And that's okay. But our ability to bring ourselves back to presence and control those thoughts and thinkings to guide it into where we want it to go is going to be really important. So the first one, and we see it all the time, is have you got a growth mindset or is it fixed? Now, the thing is with that, it's not always going to be fixed and it's not always going to be a growth mindset. There'll be times where mainly we have a growth mindset, but we might have an opinion on something that's fixed. And it might take, I don't know, a deep conversation with somebody or some new learning to go, do you know what, that view I had's probably wrong. Because actually I've now seen proof of this. Yeah. Imagine if you didn't believe in aliens and it was a totally fixed mindset on aliens don't exist. I don't know why that one just came to my head. And then you saw a fucking alien. Maybe they do exist. Yeah. Oh yeah, I had Carol's book, Tariq. I fucking hated the small text and a book's got to be easy to read for me. That was one I really struggled with. Really struggled with. But yeah, feel free to share anything that's relevant to you and I'll read it shortly. So yeah, this whole growth mindset piece is really important. And then we've got our ability to audiobook, great shout. To actually look at the evidence. What have I written there in my notes? And when you can't read your own writing. This is my scribble, by the way. Let's put evidence in. I can't read the other word. I can't remember what it is. Just review evidence. Okay. Because there are so many different cognitive biases that are there to trick us. Okay. So when we look at, here's one example, and this comes into the third one, which is logical reasoning. Let's look at the cognitive biases. We've got the bandwagon effect. I'll go through them in a minute. There's loads. We've got catastrophizing. I can't even say this. Catastrophizing. Yeah. This happens loads. This happens to traders, right, that are normally low here. Low resilience is going to show up to a cognitive bias of catastrophizing. Or catastrophic thinking. That's an easier way of saying it. So this is where something happens and we're like, oh, I can't do this. I'm never going to be able to achieve this. You know, it always happens to me. You know, when I try it, it always goes wrong. I'm never going to be good enough. I'm never going to lose that weight. I'm never going to get X, Y, Z. I'm never going to be X, Y, Z. And then, you know, if you're not, this is where they all interlink. This is a great example. Because if you're low resilient, you're going to catastrophize more. But if you've got self-awareness, you can bring that back online and go, hey, oh, that was a catastrophic thought. You might not have that particular self-talk, but you go, hang on, is that thought true? Is that true? No, don't be that's your chimp talking. Don't be so daft. Of course you can do it because you've made this progress so far. You know, it might be, let's look at someone who wants to lose weight. Now, the journey to losing weight, let's say you're 15 stone and your target is to get to 13 stone. And our mind might want us to just do this. Yeah? That's not the fucking reality, is it? You might go like this. And these upturns sometimes are when you feel like you've done everything right. Hey, you know what? I've exercised. I've eaten right. I've done the right amount of steps. And you get on the scales and you put a fucking 2-3 pounds on. You think, oh, I can't do this. This is a fucking joke. I'm never going to get to 13 stone. And again, this is where we have a choice here, right? The decisions that person makes here will either mean they put all the weight back on that they've lost, or they decide to go, no, do you know what? That's not true. I've made progress so far. Yeah, I've made some progress. I'm disappointed that I have gone up a little bit this week. Maybe, you know, there's other factors here, but that's okay. What can I do next week that brings me back on track? That person again is demonstrating resilience. Low resilience, and they end up back up here. Yeah, low awareness, they come back up here. Okay, can you see how everything interlocks? These three things are needed in bucket loads together. Critical thinking. So bandwagon effect. We saw it last week. I saw it in members because Brycey, is he on? He shared a great looking portfolio for inverse trading. Guess what that meant happened? A load of people raised a ticket on inverse settings. Okay. That was a prime example of this. Now, the logical thing here is, hey, do you know what? It's great that he's doing that, but he's probably at a very different chapter to learning this tool than I am. Darren showed us to do X, Y, and Z. Am I at that stage to be able to am I achieving the basic stuff here, or you know what I mean? It's that self-talk there of, is this just a bandwagon effect? Is this FOMO because that looks good and I haven't explored it? I feel like I'm missing out. What's my best approach here? Yeah. What happens if I get distracted by all this inverse stuff and I make it even fucking harder for myself because I have no clue what's going on? Yeah. So we saw some bandwagon effect. We see recency bias. We see outcome bias, where you judge if something is working or not just because of a day or a week. A day or a week in isolation of fucking loads more time. This is where critical thinking comes in. Actually, this is just one day. It might have had a bad day. Doesn't mean it doesn't work. Like the opposite. Giving someone a free trial and them having a great 5 trading days and them thinking, holy shit, this is brilliant. It's 5 fucking days. You can't judge something positively for 5 days or negatively for 5 days. Okay. Confirmation bias used to trip me up loads. And that was where, when I used to do some analysis and think, hey, do you know what? I think this is right. I would seek out people that had the same fucking opinion as me to make me feel good that I fucking got this right. Going to go my way because he fucking agrees. All the others that don't agree, fuck you. Yeah, you're all wrong. That shows up loads. If someone messages me on my stories, do you think Bitcoin's going to go to 100,000? They're looking for confirmation bias that what they're thinking is true, right? It's totally flawed. But again, it's one of those cognitive biases. So this critical thinking is ultimately the ability to evaluate information and decisions properly by going through that process and actually managing the chimp and going, hey, do you know what? Am I being tricked here? Is there a bias here that I've not thought about? Okay. With me so far on my sexy little triangle: critical thinking, self-awareness, resilience. That's one model down. Hopefully now you've just got a visual cue, right? Got a decision to make. You know, it's Monday, Tuesday next week, right? Where am I at on that triangle? Yeah. Am I feeling aware? What emotions are driving me? What thoughts am I having? What could be the consequences of making that decision, 3-4 moves down the line? Okay. Good stuff. So there's something I want to share with you that will help you check in with some of the self-talk, because that's where it all starts, right? It's normally a thought or a feeling. And this is something that will be launched when the app update and we just get on top of everything that we're launching. I've basically built some of these sort of models out into some PDFs that you can do what I'm doing and scribble on your iPad and journal in a particular way. As long as you just pause. You got to pause first, do the pause, and then you can do this work. If you don't pause, you're never going to actually be able to reflect upon where you are. So this is R cubed. Okay. Whole self-awareness thing, really. So the first bit is to reflect. That's the first bit. Sorry, it's not. Recognize. There's similar words that can be used. Recognize, reframe, and redirect. Okay, so the first thing is to recognize that thought, that feeling, that emotion. What is it? How is it showing up? Okay. What's going on? What's the trigger? What triggered me there? I saw that screenshot of someone that was doing this, that, and the other. Okay. Reframe. That's where that is this true comes in. Okay. Is it true that, that thought here, I'm never going to succeed. Those losses always happen to me. It's always my VPS my VPS that crash. It's always news that goes against me. It's always my EP that hits and then reverses. Actually, is this fucking true? Yeah. This bit here is like, what advice would you give someone if they were telling you what was happening here? We're so cruel to ourselves sometimes. Yeah. Our own self-talk can be quite catastrophic. It can be quite negative, hurtful. You wouldn't say that to somebody else. Yeah. You just wouldn't do it. So how would you self-coach yourself here? What advice would you give somebody else that you can give yourself? But the main thing is this true? And bring yourself back to a sense of alignment with it. Then the third bit is just this redirect. This changes you going from down here, like the domino effect and this first graph. Where's it gone? Here, can you redirect this? Get you back on track. So, okay, I've had a bad day. I've taken a loss. My VPS has crashed. This has gone wrong. I got tagged on an EP that reversed. Okay, I'm never going to succeed here. Is this true? Well, no, it's not actually. I am seeing progress overall. It's just a bad day. Bad days are going to happen. Actually, monkey brain, chimp brain, logical brain. Am I actually going to take losses in the market? Of course you are. The chimp's going, no, you should never take a loss in the market. Control that thought. The person who's losing weight, trying to lose weight here, yeah, has a bad day. Recognize the feeling of disappointment. I'm a bit pissed that I've done this work and I've not achieved anything. I'm never going to lose the weight to get to 13 stone. Reframe. Is this true? Well, no, because actually I have lost a few pounds so far and I was making progress. It's just a bad day. Is it correct that I should think that losing weight is a linear thing? Perfectly linear, week in, week out, day in, day out. Absolutely not. That's a flawed concept. Okay, so on that basis, okay, so let's just repeat that. So yes, it's okay to be disappointed. I am doing the right things. I have lost weight so far. It's a bit of a setback. So it's not true that I can't get to 13 stone. Okay, so what can I redirect here? Right, stick to what I'm doing. Maybe a few thousand more steps next week, to actually lose the weight and get back on track. These are all things that show up in everyday life. This is not just a trading thing. What you do outside of trading shows up here and vice versa. Okay, same with discipline and consistency. Can we remember R cubed? Recognize, reframe, redirect. There'll be a worksheet on it that you can keep wherever you want to keep it, or keep it on your phone, put it in your notes. Yeah. And then whenever you're thinking or feeling a particular thing, go through the process. Yeah, recognize it. Where's this showing up from? Can I move this around? Can I flip it around in a particular way? The notes on your iPhone, because you've probably already got your phone on you, right? Most of the time. Whenever I've got ideas, they all just go in here. Notes. I got loads of fucking notes. Look at that. Grab it. Write things down to forget. Otherwise, they're taking up cognitive load in your brain. People still with me? 33 of you asleep? Let me know. One of the things, come on, people, engage with me. We agreed. Lost you for a sec, but here, cool. Cognitive load. We make 35,000 decisions a day on average as a human being. Okay. That's quite a few. That's without the trading stuff, right? That's just average. So we need an ability to reduce our decisions and our cognitive load that is going to free up our brain power. That's the brain, by the way, in other areas. So if you can reduce daily decisions, they might show up in terms of your routine, morning, evening, what you eat, what you wear. These things alone make up the bulk of your 35,000 decisions that you make every day. So what you eat, a meal plan. Yeah, meal plan could be the first one. Pre-preparing meals could be the next one. You prep for the week ahead. What you wear. Yeah, wear the same white shirt every day. Wear the same black t-shirt every day, like I do pretty much. They're all just black t-shirts. Simple. I haven't got to fucking think what color I'm wearing today. Yeah. It's like a fried egg. Yeah, it is. It is, to be fair. If I put a nose here and some ears here, maybe I can make it into a person, but that's probably for another day. So what we wear, we can tick that one too. Morning and evening routine. Instead of thinking about what shall I do tomorrow or what should my evening routine be tonight, it's just dealt with. You just sort of know. Maybe again, you put some pointers somewhere and you just, instead of having to think about what you're going to do, it's just there. I just need to do that. Same thing. And by reducing decisions and cognitive load here, you can redeploy it into other areas that in turn is going to help you be more resilient and think more clearly in your trading. Yeah? Good. Two more little things to share. Remember, it keeps coming back to how is this going to help me and what can I do specifically as an action that this is going to show up and improve my life, my trading from here on in. Yeah? New routine, meal plan for the week ahead. If all you did next week, obviously this is Friday, right? So actually it's a good timing because you can reflect over the weekend. If next week you decided what you were going to eat when you were going to eat it in advance, or even pre-prepared meals, chose what you were going to wear for the whole week, or made some decisions around that, came up with a morning routine and evening routine. I guess you try and do too much and it might be a little overwhelming, but if you just focus on 2 or 3 of those things, the fact that you're not having to make the decision when you get in from work or you're in the evening, what should I have for tea tonight? Oh, well, fancy that. It's fucking brain power. Yeah. You will see such an improvement in your energy levels for other things. Okay. So this whole funnel of decisions come out, we have inputs going in. So this is just back to them habits and routines. It was just a separate thing that I had here. There are certain things that we can't control in these decisions. We can't control outcomes. Wouldn't it be fucking lovely if we could? The ability to have certainty in trading, to know what was going to happen before it happened. Again, that's a flawed fallacy. Yeah. We can't control this, but we can control this. You can control if you're up till 1 a.m. this morning, scrolling on your phone or playing computer games. That is going to have a consequence and a domino effect that's going to show up over a period of time. It won't be instant. This is the trick, right? There is not going to be an instant negative effect the next day. It might be small, and it'll be a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller. And what's happening is this, but you might not feel it. Yeah? 4 + 7? Dominic, enlighten me. But getting to bed earlier, focusing on your sleep process and routine is going to show up to improve your role here. This decision-making process here, you can improve that bit, which in turn over time is going to give you better outcomes. Okay? Good. Conscious we're nearly an hour in, so I'm sort of on track. I've got one more thing to share. What the fuck is going on here, Dominic? You like drawing numbers on the old screen, or maybe you've got a little person on the laptop. Right, so right there we go. So if the decision-making sweet spot is here, it's my son. I thought so. Or an animal. You're absolutely right. There's two things that need to happen. Oh, wrong pen. Are you emotional or rational? And the actual process of making that decision itself. This is where the thinking comes in, really. So this is emotional. That's the process. Now, whenever you're making a decision next, if you're coming from a place of being emotional and irrational and you follow this process, it's not going to work. You need to be, mess this up a little bit. Your decision-making sweet spot in the middle is from when you're coming from a place of being rational and when you follow a decision-making process. Okay? That decision-making process, what's the outcome you want to achieve? What are the possible solutions and alternatives and options that you've got right now? How would you feel if? What's the possible domino effect of them decisions as we've gone through already? Now, you can't have this one without the other. Okay, if you're emotional and you follow the process, that process you're following is flawed because you're being emotional, right? Likewise, the other way, you could be totally irrational. Sorry, you could be totally rational, not emotional, yet skip the process and just go with either a quick instinct, or maybe you're too decisive, but you've not followed a process of really contemplating some thinking over this decision. You're going to fuck it up too. Okay, so it's about those two things that control the outcome too. Good. I've gone through a lot there. I think I've covered everything I wanted to do. And just picture, I spoke the other day about the yellow brick road. I've tried to give you all a process. I'm not teaching you how to look at the markets like how I view them discretionally, and I'm not doing any of that shit. I'll leave that to the other groups. It's impossible for me to try and teach somebody how to view something. But what I can teach you is a process. A bit like the turtle trader story, they taught traders a mechanical trading strategy, right? And there was loads of traders who made that work and some that didn't. The ones that didn't follow the process and let their emotions and their own mindset start changing it. Now, the road isn't an easy path because sometimes there'll be setbacks that take you off track. You'll take a loss and it will affect how you feel about following the yellow brick road, maybe. You have an opportunity to correct yourself to get back on the yellow brick road by following that decision-making model with your self-awareness, your resilience, and your critical thinking. You have an opportunity to stop, get back on track. The people that don't have resilience or self-awareness, they end up going fucking off-piste here. Yeah, and they'll never get back on track and won't achieve what you want to achieve. Okay, so there's the work here corrects this, back on track. Stops you doing silly things. Yeah, we have all done many, I don't know how to stop sharing. Here we go. Silly things. And if you just went back, let's say you got every trade account history of any trading account or challenge or funded account or live capital that you've ever fucking traded in your trading career, every single P&L. I'm pretty sure if you just removed the emotional, irrational fucking cock-ups, you could add a load more back to your P&L. What do you think about that? I know definitely I could. over the years, just by not doing anything else other than just removing the areas of weakness, self-control, resilience. What do you think? How much would you add back in? And that's without focusing on anything else. It's just by stopping, managing the triggers, managing the self-talk, not doing silly things. Yeah, a wholly different trajectory. Because most of my losses in the early days were just big ones like Euro NZD, where I've just chased it and, you know, got it wrong or whatever. And yeah, remove one trade, right, can undo one bad day, one day where you're feeling very low energy, low resilience, not looking after yourself, eating shit, not moving enough, stressed. One bad day, one thing is going to fuck a load of good work that you've made. Good stuff. Let me just quickly check. Yeah, pause first or breathe. Bring yourself back to breath. Go for a walk. Leave your phone. Just be there with your thoughts and just unravel it, or stare at a wall. So I've got 3 quick questions here. So I'm just going to, this wasn't really a Q&A, otherwise it goes on for a long time. But Michael, I've answered that in the comments. Nova, you need to stick with a fixed lot and you don't want to be opening any more trades than 2. So you need to be working your strategy based around that. You can still use live delay, but it all just depends on making sure that when you review the backtest data, that those lot sizes are still all similar. So that means you want to be looking at the live delay exponent 2, subject to the size of the live delay that you're running, just to try and keep those trades similar. Okay. One of the things that's in process on the next update is the max orders. At the minute, the max orders includes live delay trades, which is flawed because then we're not testing properly the maximum orders thing. So that'll be fixed. So we can then back test, setting our max orders at 2, and it's going to work out the best parameters for achieving that. Better sets using non-martingale. Difficult one really, because without dissecting your process from start to finish, it shouldn't really make any difference. Martingale means that clearly price needs a smaller pullback than not. Keeps hitting EP. I'd suggest pulling it right back, your risk right back. Also review and check that you're reviewing the drawdown properly. Drawdown is equity drawdown by default. Go into the drawdown analysis on Portfolio Finder, look at balance drawdown, combine the set files, put your drawdown measure in, look at it, see how that plays out. But also you got to understand there is no certainty here. We can only do X amount of the work that are going to increase your chances of success overall. A back test in full is still not going to give you, you know, a full certainty that it's always going to work perfectly in the future. What I would do is run them long enough that you've got so much data that you can see, actually, was it bad spell? Did it come out the other end? Or sometimes a lot of my sets are running, my masters are running without an EP. I navigate my accounts on the slave accounts with EPs in, because it gives me an understanding of my master accounts and how they've ran and the drawdown they've seen and what moves they've absorbed. And that enables me to make decisions based on that in how my slave account copies it, how aggressive or not aggressive, when I copy or not. Like if I'm running so many master accounts, I can choose, you know, if they're not all accommodated and I've got an account with hardly anything open and I've got a master account in some drawdown, I can be like, hey, it normally recovers well from here. I haven't seen this level very often. And then I can bulk copy that into my slave account and make a great earn off the back of it. That was behind my 8.5K that I made before the school run and getting out of bed on Monday morning because of doing that exact thing. Okay. I spoke about it on the Q&A on the Friday. And how do I do that? Well, I do that by running my master accounts and building up that data. Okay. So I would check that you've got everything's set up right with your magic numbers and your strategies and your time frames and just the housekeeping there. But yeah, sometimes that might happen. Okay, but run your master accounts for as long as you can, and confidence equals data times time. Yeah. Right. So takeaways. What are I want just one thing. I want just one thing that you can take away from this just into next week. Just one. What would that be? Go. 27 of you. That either frees up a bit of decision making. Okay, SWOT analysis. So what you're good at, what you're weak at, what your opportunities are, what might go wrong. So good. Black sand and resilience. It's a word. It's the things that you're going to do that you can control. What we can't do, right, is we can't just say, I'm going to be more resilient. Because without doing the work to increase your resilience and your habits in and around it, one thing's going to probably knock you off course. Yeah. Someone cuts you up on the way to work in the car and you're like, that could trigger an emotional response. And also, just be careful what you agree to and how you're thinking and feeling when you're in peak flow. When things are going, I've checked in on this recently. If I'm in a good mood and doing stuff, I might say yes to things I don't really want to fucking do. But it was because I was in a heightened state of fucking feeling great and groovy that, yeah, I'll go and do that. And then when it comes to it, you think, why the fuck did I say yes to that? So that's where pause comes in. Yeah, let me just ponder that. And saying no is fine. Because this is that cognitive load thing. The more things we say yes to and the more we try and accommodate others, the more that what we get out of it is hindered too. Okay to say no. Set your boundaries. Manage your own energy. And I guess be careful. Resilience could also be who you hang around with. Because if everyone you hang around with is poor resilience, victim mentality, moaning about fucking everything, that's going to show up in you too, right? If you surround yourself with resilient, tenacious fucking achievers, that's going to show up too. So contemplate that. Healthy habits, good. Reflect on what they are. Yeah, get really concise with what they are. Critically think. Again, be clear on what that looks like, Devon. What does it look like to critically think? Might be a process. It might be an awareness around them biases. Yeah. Staying positive, self-talk. Could be a mantra, could be something that helps you in your journaling process every day. How am I going to show up today? What does that look like? Sleeping habits, good. Reducing stress, more energy. The process of decision making is more important than general feelings and unbalanced expectation. A lot of this filters back into expectations, because if we expected it to be hard when it wasn't hard, it wouldn't. If we expected it to be hard and it's hard, that's okay. If we expect to take losses and we take losses, well, we expected it. If we expect to be happy all the time and we're not, we're probably going to wonder why we're not fucking happy. If we expect not to be happy all the time and it's okay to be happy some of the time and most of the time we might not be or whatever, then that's a different level of self-talk and stress from the back of your expectations not being met. I expect I'm going to take losses. So when I take losses, I'm not stressed because that was my expectation to start with. People that get stressed when they take losses is because they didn't expect to. Yeah. Right, I'm going to go, people. 1 hour, 11 minutes. Again, information without implementation is fucking useless. There's no upside without a downside. Get really deep into this. And it's what you do now and take something away from it that is the most important thing. Think triangles and R cubed. Okay, people, I'm going to go now. So have a great weekend and I'll see you on the other side. If you've not shared your wins, setbacks, lessons, losses, progress in the chat, go and do that for me now. See you later, people.